The following conversations are taken from our channel membership exclusive weekly live show that we do on Saturdays from 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time called Members Talk Live. Find out how you can become a member and appear on the show. All of the information is down in the description below, as well as all the links to the channels of today's guests. Check them out, and I hope to talk with you very soon. Let's just jump right into our first topic because I think it's a pretty interesting one. It's a pretty big one because we've been talking for a little bit now about how, with Bob Iger coming back to Disney, there's been a huge reshaping of the company. And a lot of that is affecting the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has been a little bit of a slump these past couple of years. Let's not lie about that. Well, according to a new rumor, it looks like one of Bob Iger's way of getting out of this slump is to get rid of some movie franchises that just aren't working as much anymore. Marvel Studios is reportedly making huge changes in its lineup of superhero movies. Previous reports claim that Eternals is getting a sequel and is already in development. Meanwhile, there are rumors that Antman and Captain Marvel are returning for another installment despite both films not getting a green light yet. However, Marvel Studios has remained mum about Eternals 2, and Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Iger recently confirmed that they would reduce the Marvel output and focus on its stronger franchises. According to Daniel Richtman, which is a very famous scooper in the space, he is no stranger to this channel, the anticipated Eternals, Ant-Man, and Captain Marvel sequels are no longer coming to the big screens. Marvel Studios boss Kevin Feige reportedly wants to produce an Eternals sequel, but Iger allegedly does not, believing it's a guaranteed box office flop. Consequently, projects like Ant-Man 4 and Captain Marvel 3 are not happening as Disney wants to avoid risks and focus on likely hits. So this is very much a rumor. This is coming from Daniel Richtman, who sometimes gets it right, sometimes he's been way off and wrong. But this is also pretty consistent with what we've been hearing in the trades these past couple months of Bob Iger coming in there and being like, if it's not working, we're getting rid of it. We're overproducing. We need to do quality over quantity. Captain Marvel or the Marvels is the lowest performing Marvel movie ever. It did not. I don't even think it hit 300 million. I think it capped off in the 200 millions worldwide. Eternals 2, granted, came out kind of in the pandemic area, but also was only like a $400 million box office hit, along with Ant-Man 4, or Ant-Man 3, sorry, which was also just like a box office 400 million hit, which those numbers are very, very low for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Ryan, I'll throw it to you first, man. What do you think of these projects specifically being the focus of Bob Iger's acts? And do you agree with these picks? And do you think that these are the right ones to go with?
So from a fiscal point of view, yeah, I can see why. Ant-Man 3, I mean, I think it was more like in the range of like $500 million overall gross, but I mean, again, it didn't, I think it may have just barely broken even, if that. Eternals, I don't know, it's kind of sort of that weird awkward spot because that was film came out like pre-Spider-Man No Way Home, because Spider-Man No Way Home was kind of the film that showed, hey, the box office still has life in it. We can still do this, make movies. Eternals came out, sort of back when people were like, is this going to still work? So maybe a little bit hesitant on that. Captain Marvel 3, this is tough. Again, I did not hate, the Marvels. I gave it a just barely positive rating.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.
But again, from a fiscal point of view, it's been, again, we're well into the post Spider-Man No Way Home part. At this point, if a film doesn't, do well, it's got very few excuses, or at the very least, it can't rely on pandemic as an excuse. So, yeah, overall, I guess I get it, but some film, the Marvels personally, I feel bad for, but the other two, I didn't really care for Ant-Man 3 or Eternals.
Also, going back to kind of what you said, at the start, where it's like Ant-Man was almost a $500 million profited movie. Like that's not a small number. $500 million at the box office or close to it is great for any movie. It's just, I think it's more of a testament to the budgets that they keep putting into these movies for sure.
Yeah.
But when they were like averaging $1 billion a movie, you can understand why they might justify putting so much money into these movies, because it was also before the pandemic that a lot of that was planned. But T, how about you, man? I mean, Did you see Eternals? Did you like Eternals? Do you think that Eternals just came out at the wrong time? It didn't really get a fair shot. And do you think they should continue with the second one? And what do you think of the other franchise sequels here that they're thinking of getting rid of?
So I did see the Eternals, and I enjoyed the Eternals somewhat. I think it was out of place. It seems like a movie that doesn't fit in the overall MCU. It is its own kind of entity because it didn't really tie into anything.
Mm-hmm.
At least I felt like it didn't tie into anything else. So getting rid of it doesn't really hurt the cinematic universe. Um, but I kind of saw the writing when I saw the post credit scene. I was like, I don't know where they're gonna go from here. I understand how the movie ended, where you had two split teams, and one was going to like find their home world or whatever. I can't remember. But then
You
Harry
remember more than
Styles
I do, I'll
showed
tell
up.
you that much.
Yeah, it was Harry Styles showed up, and it just was weird. Like I was like, man, I don't see this movie. I really didn't see this franchise moving forward because of how it really didn't fit with anything else that was going on in MCU. So this being canceled doesn't surprise me. Ant-Man doesn't surprise me. Captain Marvel, it doesn't. None of this surprises me. But what that statement said about the guaranteed hits, the only guaranteed hit that Marvel MCU has right now is Spider-Man. All of the rest of the franchises are gone. Thor is still there, but that's really it. You've destroyed the Guardians of the Galaxy. Iron Man's gone. Captain America is a new Captain America who's unproven on the big screen.
Yeah.
So they don't have any guarantee. Like Spider-Man's the only guarantee that they're gonna get people into the seats. And then when you have the Avengers movie, everybody's gonna show up because it's gonna be titled The Avengers something.
Right.
But they don't really have that cachet to say, well, we could just throw out another Iron Man movie, or we could just like they just have the Spider-Man, and after Thor Love and Thunder, which I enjoyed, but everybody else hates. That's not a guaranteed $1 billion movie. They don't like that. I said last week, we're spoiled, Marvel spoiled. They expect these movies to be $1 billion, but that expectation is unrealistic. Like you have to understand, making $500 million for a film is not an easy feat. Like just ask any other
Adam
studio.
Webb.
Sony would kill for a $500 million film, but they just expect it, and I think that's unrealistic. But I mean, if you're a billionaire owner of a billionaire studio, a $1 billion studio, you expect to make money. Scale down the go back to that original Ant-Man premise of scaling everything back, not making it so bombastic in 150 million, to maybe 200. They're spending $300 million on these films now. That's just ridiculous. So
Yeah.
I definitely understand these movies being canceled, but I mean, it's kind of to be expected. It's par for the course. Like these movies, I've been thinking about this. 20 years from now, people are gonna be upset how bad we treated Brie Larson. We're gonna look back at the Captain Marvel series and like this wasn't that bad.
Like Jake
It's
Lloyd.
gonna take
I think it's gonna be like a Jake Lloyd.
yes, they've pounded this poor franchise, and it doesn't deserve that. It doesn't deserve the vitriol that everybody gives it. So we'll look back on it, and she'll show up for some random Avengers team up 20 years from now as like this older Captain Marvel, and everybody's gonna pop, kind of like they did with the Hulk. Like the Hulk showed up in the Avengers, even though everybody hated the Hulk movies. She'll get the come uppance that she deserves. That character deserves more than we've given it.
Yeah, for sure. And I do agree. Like even today, I don't think I think people are too harsh on Brie Larson for sure. I've liked her as Captain Marvel this whole time, and I thought she was really good in the Marvels specifically. But going back to one of your points, the only like guaranteed hits that I can think of that they have still is Black Panther, even though it's not Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa Black Panther. Wakanda Forever still grossed over, I think, 700 million, maybe 800 million. Doctor Strange, the second one, while it may not have been like as beloved as the first one, money wise, it was very close. It was kissing that $1 billion mark. It was like 900 million, somewhere in there. And Shang-Chi, I think, did decently at the box office, and that was also during pandemic. And I think he was also a character that popped with audiences. I think he's more in the cultural zeitgeist of the new characters of any of them. So I could see those ones definitely being like their new ones moving forward. But also, that's a good point. Like Captain America, you still have the brand, but you don't have the actual. Well, not like you don't have the character that people have come to know and love from the Captain America movies. Iron Man's gone. Thor, he still made money. 700 million in the box office is nothing to scoff at. But people definitely fell off the Thor fandom after Love and Thunder. So yeah, they've got some rebuilding to do. But Frank, what do you think? Is this the way to go with the rebuilding? Do you think he's being too hasty? Do you think Eternals didn't get a fair shot? And do you think that there's still love for an Ant-Man 4 or Captain Marvel 3?
I feel like it was inevitable when they're just pulling back and
I see what you did there.
Yeah, exactly. So, gosh, yeah, this was something to expect. Just pulling as far as looking at what they've originally planned and be like, okay, well, let's think very carefully of what this could do to us. This is how they're thinking at this moment. Scrapping off plans. I mean, honestly, I did not know that there was going to be a third Captain Marvel or fourth Ant-Man at all. And would it have been interesting? Maybe, but would have been necessary would be the real question. And also wouldn't have helped Disney and Marvel Studio the same. Probably not. But as far as Eternal, I mean, the first one I enjoyed Eternals, honestly. I think the way I see it, and as many, is the perspective of like the story with this group of new heroes that we've never seen before, barely even heard about. Also, lays the foundation of the cosmic side of it, like where everything began, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in that article, one thing that Bob Iger or no one else have mentioned as far as the focus goes moving forward is the payoffs. I feel like that's the most important piece right now where we're at in this multiverse saga is the payoffs. So Eternals has left off with an open-ended like plot right there with introducing Thanos's brother and how part of the group of the Eternals we're going to go out there and we're going to find their other counterparts, their other Eternals out there. So that's part of the cosmic side that we haven't explored yet. And maybe it's gonna be about, okay, bringing it to with other characters, like the team ups. Where are the team ups? Because all we've been getting were solo stories, but characters that most have liked, have enjoyed, and story and other stories that none of us didn't enjoy. I mean, Ant-Man 3 is an example of like, okay, we've got introduced to Cassie Lang once again, and Kang was introduced, but it wasn't introduced in a way that they've expected how we would receive it because of what happened to him. And now they scrapped off the King Dynasty, and we still don't know what Avenger 5 is going to be. So maybe this is their chance to incorporate some common stories where they could bring these characters that were left off from open-ended writings and finally make something meaningful, a meaningful story, meaningful writing that would make us go like, oh, okay, this is going to be some experience. So, make the saga make sense as to like where the direction is going to go to. And that's just it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that they did not mention, like, for example, Thor 5, because yes, we do need a sense of direction of where Love and Thunder has been left off. And I don't know, maybe bring in. I actually thought the Eternals were going to show up there in Thor: Love and Thunder as well.
Yeah,
because
they had the Celestials in that trailer when they went to the God world. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, many payoffs, because for one thing that Marvel Studios has proven, especially in the Infinity Saga, is that they do not fail in their promises that they make, from what they did in like phase 1 or phase 2, and they fulfilled it in later phases, 3 or 4. So they can still do this. And if it's gonna be about scrapping off projects, that, you know, that's the executive's decision, and you know, we would have to agree with it.
If you had to pick one of these that you believe to be true, if you think one of these is actually their franchise is ending off, they're not going to get another sequel, which of these options do you believe is more the focus?
Ooh, that's a toughie. I mean, I feel like I can't really pick one because I feel like all three sort of have some level of baggage. Ant-Man 3 has like the fact that Jonathan Majors was in it, which has retroactively soured that movie. Plus, the film wasn't even that well received to begin with. Captain Marvel had pretty bad box office. Again, I liked it, kinda, but again, from a pure numbers point of view, I can't imagine the accountants rubber stamping that movie. As for Eternals, I don't know, just pure lack of interest. It came and went.
Out of these three, what I think is most likely to be true would be Ant-Man. I mean, it finished out his trilogy kind of at a low note. I think Ant-Man is a great character to just show up in an Avengers movie, kind of give you a taste, and then everybody will clamor for another Ant-Man movie after he comes and just steals the show with some quick-witted, things, and then we just, once again, it's a Hulk situation. Also the Eternals, because I just thought the X-Men is coming. Like, so we don't need two other superpower teams. We got the Fantastic Four, but they're not like a huge team. The X-Men, you're at least getting 7 characters with the X-Men, 5 to 7 core X-Men. So you have that big hyped up team up that would overshadow the Eternals no matter what, because of the power set, because of the cool factor. We might actually get Gambit on the big screen finally. A true to life Gambit, not
Wolverine origin.
Not the Gambit that will not be named, or the movie that will not be named. But yeah, I think Ant-Man is probably for sure not going to happen. I think they really do need to close out the trilogy of Captain Marvel and give her the I got it. A lot of people don't like it, but I think she deserves, she's an Oscar-winning actress. I really think that she deserves to close out her trilogy, because everybody else got a chance to. Every other character from those phases got a chance to close out their trilogy, however they saw fit. And I think that character deserves it. And I think that after she went and relit that sun, I think there's a great story to be told with her coming to peace with what she did, not in a team up movie, but and becoming the hero, because she's not the superhero everybody expected her to be yet. But I think that trilogy could really close out the arc and really give us a heartfelt story and make her into a better hero than she already is.
I would just have to pick Ant-Man 4 as something that would be heavily disregarded, more disregarded than the other two, I feel, really. Because I do agree with what Tia said in regards to Captain Marvel. I could clearly picture when the 5th installment of the Avenger does come out, either that one or in Secret Wars, like we would see her, and I could picture her and Sam Wilson kind of like co-leaders of the Avengers. You got Captain Marvel with the more cosmic side of the heroes, and then there's Sam Wilson with the street level side of the heroes as well, and kind of like teaming up. I would love to see that. That'd be her huge moment. But and as far as the third sequel, I do agree that she would at least that could have at least been considered and not scrapped off. And yesterday I actually did hear, I don't know if you caught this, Zach, but instead of calling it Eternals 2, they were considering in like changing the title to something else and turning it into a project, whether if it's a movie or some limited series for Disney Plus that won't come out until like 2026. So who knows, what it's going to become to continue telling the story of the Eternals. So we're just going to have to see. For now, it's just rumors.
Yeah. That's interesting. No, I didn't know that. I didn't hear that one. So for me, I'm going to say Eternals 2 has the most likely chance of happening. I think that there's still some arguments as to why it wouldn't. I mean, I'm blanking on his name. Kamal.
Nanjiani.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he recently has come out. He's been very vocal about how hurt he is to the whole experience and how much it was on his mental health. And I'm sure the chance to come back to Eternals 2 may not be as appealing to him. And personally, he was like my favorite character of the Eternals, so that would really bum me out if they did Eternals 2 and he wasn't in it. But Eternals 2 being done, I think, has the best shot because Kevin Feige, if this rumor is true, Kevin Feige is at bat for it. And if Kevin Feige has a plan, if Kevin Feige has enough of a pitch that he can justify to Bob Iger why this is important to the rest of the universe or their direction going forward, I think Bob Iger will trust Kevin Feige since Kevin Feige has such a great track record for box office hits that he might let him do it. The one that I think is most likely to get canceled is Antman 4. I think, even though I like Antman Quantumania, I'm one of the only people who do like Antman Quantumania. It did feel like the franchise was kind of running out of steam. It did kind of feel like they weren't exactly sure where to take the character next. And I think movies similar to what T was saying, like Captain America Civil War and Avengers Endgame, prove that Ant-Man works best, in my opinion, as an ensemble character. You just get Paul Rudd in there and let him be funny and do his thing and steal the show. But
Time heist.
Yeah. Time heist. An alternate title that I would have been totally fine with, actually, looking back at the movie. But yeah, he steals scenes in Endgame. He's fun to see interact with the other characters. So I don't necessarily need another solo Ant-Man movie, and I think he would be perfectly suited to be the guy who comes in as the ensemble. So yeah, I think that's where we'll leave that. So as far as if we believe these rumors to be true, do we buy or sell that Disney is thinking of canceling these projects? I'm gonna say it's probably true. I buy it. Two thumbs up from T there.
All right. Okay, it's been great being here, but I gotta go.
All right, man. Tell people where they can find you, man.
All right. You can find me on YouTube at Movie Reviews with Ryan Lean. I post reviews on a weekly basis. You can also find me on Letterboxd at Ryan Lane 7.
All right, perfect, man. Thank you so much for giving us your time. It was great to have you here, and you enjoy the rest of your day, man.
All right, thank you. You too.
Let's move from the superhero genre and head on over to the horror genre, because Scream 7 has been a huge discussion amongst the fandom, especially on the internet, as most discussions take place nowadays. I mean, we've been on a roller coaster of this thing. Scream 6 came out. It killed at the box office. Fans seem to really like it, and fans seem to really embrace the new characters played by Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. A lot of people, including myself, liked the sister dynamic, liked where their characters were going. They really felt like they had taken the mantle of Scream and they were going to be the ones who took over the franchise. And everyone seemed to be okay with that, seemed to be accepting that. Well, as life happens, things went down. Studios, actors, disagreements. They let go of Melissa Barrera. Jenna Ortega is becoming a bigger and bigger star by the day. She's leaving because of conflict, scheduling issues. So Scream 7 was left without its main stars. And where do you go in Scream if you got nowhere else to go? You go back to Sydney. And that's exactly what they've done here. Neve Campbell is confirmed to return to Scream 7. This comes to us from Variety. After sitting out of Scream 6 over a salary dispute, franchise star Neve Campbell has announced her return in the upcoming 7th movie. Sidney Prescott is coming back, Campbell posted on Instagram Tuesday. It's always been such a blast and an honor to get to play Sidney in the Scream movies. My appreciation for these films and for what they have meant to me has never waned. I'm very happy and proud to say I've been asked in the most respectful way to bring Sidney back to the screen, and I couldn't be more thrilled. So asked to come back in the most respectful way just means she was given a lot of money, because that's one of the reasons why she wasn't able to come back, and it wasn't able to come back in Scream 6. So this has been a big debate online for sure, whether or not Scream 7 even should have happened after they let go of the stars. People were asking for the boycott, for the cancellation of the Scream 7 movie just because they got rid of these actors. I never believed that was going to happen. So I'll throw it to you first, T. Sydney's back. Scream 7's still on. Are you a fan who was hoping that they would cancel Scream 7 after everything that went down with the previous actresses? Or do you think there's still life in Scream and going back to Neve Campbell is the right direction for this franchise?
I don't agree with going back to Neve Campbell being the right decision because, I mean, the original Scream came out when I was in high school, which was a very long time ago. It was over 20 years ago, well over 20 years ago. I remember watching this. I think I was a sophomore in high school watching the original Scream when there was a young and fresh cast. And now we had a young and fresh cast. And now we're going back to the old. It'll be Sydney and Gail. Like, you know, Justice for Dewey. One of the pain moments in my fandom was watching Dewey get killed off.
And it was a gruesome kill. They lingered on that.
That soured the whole movie for me. I won't lie. I'm not a big David Arquette fan. I won't sit here and say I'm a huge David Arquette, but I was a big Dewey fan. Like Dewey took a lot. And you know, they killed him off. But I knew they were going to make a Scream 7. I never was one of those people saying, "Oh, we need to cancel Scream 7." To me, it's easy in a horror to just create new characters. Like just go with somebody new. Keep the twins in there because they're wonderful. I love the twin characters. But you know, you could just cast more young and beautiful people in a scary movie and it's going to sell. But Neve Campbell, I don't think moves the needle as much as they think she's going to move the needle. Like her putting out that press junket is all in goodwill. Like, oh, they asked me so respectfully, you know, like I read that and I just laughed because it's like, of course you have to, everybody's saying what they need to say to get people to come back to the theater because Jenna Ortega has become kind of a brand where she pulls in. Now she actually pulls in an audience. So her not being there hurt the movie more than Melissa Barrera not being there. But Jenny Ortega has become a big star in her own right, especially in the horror genre. Like her name, if she attaches her name to any film at this point, the movie moves other than Miller's Girl, which is another story for another day. But in the horror realm, like I think she's grown, especially with Wednesday becoming what it became. But Neve Campbell coming back, I knew it was inevitable. She had to come back for Scream 7 to happen. Part of me feel like she gets killed in this film, like, and then they move into a different direction, and hopefully by that time, Melissa Barrera, I have this feeling they're gonna bring those two back for the 8th installment, like because they'll see that it worked better as long as they make the movie a better movie. Because the end of Scream 6 was another story for no. We don't need 5 killers at the end of Scream 7,
right?
Like let's not do that. But like I feel like they'll bring those two back. I don't think this is the end for them. Because money's going to talk, and if the next film doesn't do as well as Scream 6, money will talk.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting because especially the situation in which the firing happened, the only real way is only if there's bridges burned. Like, that's really the only way I think that they wouldn't come back is if they've burnt those bridges entirely.
Yeah.
I don't think that Neve Campbell is necessarily the wrong choice to go back to, but I do read it as desperate because if you do watch Scream 6, I mean, they write off her character as in like, don't bring her into this. She deserves a happy ending. And it was kind of like they were closing that book for Sydney, and they had these characters that Ghostface could focus on now, kind of thing. And by going back to Neve Campbell, it just kind of feels like it's so obvious that that's not what Scream 7 was supposed to be. That's not what Scream 7 was supposed to be about. And so they kind of have to rewrite history in a way to make this fit in this new trilogy. And it's also going to be interesting how they write off the absences of Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera. Like, why all of a sudden is Ghostface going back after Sydney and not caring about these characters anymore? And it's also kind of, they had their like shot of these new characters because they were able to tie their lineage to classic characters. It's going to be interesting to see how they move forward with another new cast. Are they going to just retread that and say that they had a long lost brother or long lost sister, do the Scream 3 reveal, which was terrible? So Frank, what do you think about all this? What do you think about Sydney coming back, Neve Campbell coming back? Are you excited to see her back? Do you think Scream 7 can still work with her and not Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega?
Yeah. Well, I will share this. The initial trilogy was the trilogy that kind of had me just excited and explore more into the horror genre when I was in my early teens. So I really did enjoy Neve Campbell as Sydney, the trio, both Courtney and David. I mean, that was them. They were the core center of what carries the story of Scream. And yeah, I was also devastated to know just to see when I first saw the 5th installment. I'm like, okay, no, this can't be happening, because it happened in Scream 2 and we were fooled. We were punked. Okay, it's gonna happen again, right? Nope, it didn't happen. And I'm like, God damn it, I'll never see this again. But when they first announced Scream 7, and I did do like a reaction short about it. And is it still going to be the same director who directed Happy Death Day?
I can't remember. I think it's is it I can't remember who it was. I thought it was the screenwriter of the first Scream movie is directing it.
Kevin.
Okay, yeah, that's
wrong.
right. Kevin Williamson, right? Yeah. Okay, so they switched it, and which is good. I mean, that's one thing that I buy into the idea for Scream 7. However, by bringing back Sydney again, so what did we miss? Because at this point, I feel like all of us know her story. You know, the entire idea of the original trilogy was that her brother was responsible all along for orchestrating the whole everything, the game, the Ghostface, all of it. Yeah, so that's already closed. And then the 4th one happened with the cousin, and this is big spoiler. So that ship has sailed, and I can't remember if it was received well or not, but I enjoyed part 4.
It wasn't by me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know, and I think I've only seen it like 3-4 times. And then we get a 5th one, which kind of emphasizes on the trend with like a reboot of it. Mm-hmm. And then the 6th one kind of introduces like, okay, what it looks like as a franchise trend. So what's next, really? And I wouldn't say like I'm 100% on board with Scream 7, but Kevin Williamson is going to be directing, will be writing it. Will this be like a 3rd trilogy? I highly doubt it. I'm really not asking for that. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Just I hope they don't cave in and bring back Stu or something like that. Like that would just be like so desperate to me. I would be like, man, this is stupid. I mean, maybe they could find a way to do it where I'm like, oh wow, they pulled it off. I'm actually buying into this. But like I've always thought
Freddy's, man. He's coming back. He's coming back.
Yeah, maybe they're talking to Matthew Lillard as we speak. Who knows?
Oh man, I've always thought the idea of bringing back Stu was such a desperate, just like horrible move to do.
No, I think when the news comes out that he confirms that he's also going to be returning, then I'm going to be like, okay, let me give this a chance, because this is going to be hilariously like intriguing.
There'll be a big rant on Zach and Talks Live if they have Matthew Lillard's coming back.
Oh gosh, I'll make a note of that right now. So
Stu had a twin brother we didn't know about. I'm telling, like, it's going to be something utterly ridiculous for Scream 7. Like, desperate times calls for desperate measures calls for whatever the quote is. That's where we're at with Scream 7 at this point.
Yeah, don't be surprised if any of the original killers had a sibling. Like if Billy had a sibling, Stu had a twin brother. Like, okay, let's write that in.
This franchise really does play like a soap opera a lot of the time.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, they do establish. Do they establish? I might have that wrong. Sydney has kids, right? They established that in Scream
She
5?
had a kid, I think. Yeah, in one of the movies, she was pushing a stroller. I remember that, but then she left the baby with the.
Left her with someone, yeah,
with her husband or whoever the male figure is in her life, which I don't think any mother would do, to go back and chase a killer down, but
only in Scream.
Only in Scream. Man.
Do you think there's a way that works though? Do you think there's a way that they focus on her child? Maybe age her up a bit.
That is quite. As we were speaking about this, I was thinking that her kid was going to be the killer. Like that was going on in my mind. Like just like the millennial child or whatever generation we're in now is a spoiled, entitled kid who comes up, kind of like the cousin was in Scream 4. Just Lord. In my mind, I've been like, as we talk about these things, I think of movie ideas and I think of story ideas, which is so far fetched that they're possible at this point, because we're I mean, Scream 6 was phenomenal to me. Up until the end, it was a phenomenal movie. Like it was
my second favorite of the franchise, right after the first one.
It was great, and it left. If the ending didn't sour you it left on a really good note. Like it left in a good place. I felt like, with her throwing the mask down, and I felt like they would have been really better served taking it to like Mexico or I don't want to sound insensitive. I don't know what Melissa Barrera or Jenna Ortega's actual Hispanic heritage is, but wherever they were from, take it there. Like we went to New York, we've been in a small town, take it to an exotic locale.
The rumors were that Scream 7 was supposed to take place outside of the US or something like that. It was I remember them saying that it was supposed to take place in a new location.
I would have loved that because it gives the franchise more room to breathe because you're in a new environment. Like being in a small town they've endured so many massacres. Like that just doesn't make any sense to me that we just keep in a small town of where I can't remember the name of the town, but like take it somewhere different. New York, the New York setting worked well, but it wouldn't work well again for another Scream film. But like take it to somewhere totally different. Don't take it to a European city. Take it to like like the jungle, Touristas style, like where you're in the middle of nowhere.
Predator. Scream Predator.
I mean, at this point, man, like
just some kids camping.
That's a whole other level.
Yes, but like it's something different. You have the core 4 back, but now we have Neve Campbell. Like I don't know where they go from here. I'm gonna watch it because I love watching. Like I'm a huge Scream fan, and I'm always looking for the killer reveal. And it's never been good since the first one. The first one spoiled us with one of the greatest. That was one of the greatest killer reveals ever on film. Like hands down to me. That and Saw, those two were like two of the greatest like endings of a horror franchise or horror film. But now it's like we're gonna find out Gail's the killer. Like Gail went psychotic and it's like it's gonna be something random, and or maybe Sydney finally snapped and she's the killer and she's been chasing herself the whole time, like High Tension or something. I don't know.
It's like Sydney from the future.
Yes.
What's weird is that in Scream 4, when they were talking about like the in-movie fictional franchise Stab, which is based off from the story of Scream,
right?
And they mentioned numerous sequels that came out between the events of Scream 3 and 4, and I'm like, whoa. They really made some money out of this. There's even a plot in one of the Stab movies where they time travel too. And so seeing Scream 7, I go, I really hope they're not going to go where I think it is.
Time travel.
Because that'd be ridiculous.
Well, I guess the new rules based off, well, it's not the horror genre, but it would be like just movies in general would be like the multiverse or something.
Oh my gosh,
But,
the rules of multiverse horror.
but they always focus on the horror rules. So that's I will throw this out though. Neve Campbell is confirmed to be back, but they've not confirmed her to be like the main lead. So do we think that she could be supporting?
To me, that's the best. I don't think age Sydney Prescott. I say this with all due respect. Sydney looked rough in the last film. Gail looks rough in the like. Do we want to see those two like and for the audience that Scream brings in, they want to bring in the 18 to 23-year-old. They want to bring in. They don't want me, the
Scream
age
mom.
guy who grew up with Scream. Yeah, like they don't. That's not the audience they're looking for now. So her being a star, that doesn't save your franchise. That more so sinks your franchise in this day and age than it would, because ageism is a real thing. And unless she comes with a particular set of skills and goes into like a Liam Neeson type renaissance,
Right.
interrelated, like it just doesn't work. Like unless she comes and she's like Jamie Lee Curtis in the last Halloween trilogy, like where she's just this grizzled, come on Ghostface, I'm ready for you. Like if she's that character, like if she takes on a Linda Hamilton role, like I can see that, but then it still has to be the young and beautiful person that she's protecting. Like her kid is this young, beautiful human being, whether it's male or female. Like it has to be young blood to bring the twins in. The twins cannot be out of this franchise. You have to incorporate the twins.
I agree.
Like they have to be there. They've definitely taken over another. What's the guy's name?
Randy.
They killed off. Yeah, Randy.
Yeah.
He should not have been killed off as early. I don't think that they thought that all the way through. Like, so the twins have to be there. So you have to have a young, beautiful person to interact with the twins, So Neve Campbell, will she be in it? Yes, but like Sydney Prescott doesn't carry the film. She shouldn't carry the film moving forward.
All right. Well, I guess we can just go to buy or sell from here. Do we buy or sell the inclusion of Neve Campbell being a good choice for Scream 7? I'm gonna buy it. I think it's a way to go.
I am very versatile here.
Now we move from superhero to horror to Star Wars. We're back to another franchise here. And Star Wars is a franchise that is really in a limbo right now. I mean, they're doing a lot of stuff on Disney Plus, TV shows, but if you ask me, the TV shows have diluted the franchise. It's actually made me less excited for Star Wars. It's made Star Wars feel more like a generic thing more than a event thing. So Star Wars hasn't had a movie in the theaters since 2019. And there's a lot of conversations about how they need to get back into the movie theaters. We've got Mandalorian turning from a season 4 into a movie, Mandalorian and Grogu. So they're working their ways into getting Star Wars back into the big screen. And it looks like one project that we thought was gone forever may actually see the light of day, and that is Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron. This comes to us from Variety. It says in a new interview on the Talking Pictures podcast, Jenkins announced that he's now once again in development on the script for Rogue Squadron, following the dissolution of her planned Wonder Woman 3 at Warner Brothers. Variety has reached out to Lucasfilm for comment, but she went on to say, when I left Star Wars to do Wonder Woman 3, I started working on that. We talked about, well, maybe I'll come back to Star Wars after Wonder Woman 3. So we started a deal for that to happen, Jenkins said. When Wonder Woman 3 went away, Lucasfilm and I were like, oh, we've got to finalize this deal. We finished the deal right as the strike was beginning, so I now owe a draft of Star Wars. So we will see what happens there. Who knows? They have a hard job in front of them. What's the first movie they're going to do? Jenkins added about Lucasfilm. They have other directors who have been working, but I am now back doing Rogue Squadron. We'll see what happens. We need to get it to where we're both super happy with it. Rogue Squadron is still not yet confirmed to be officially happening, but Jenkins is working on a script. She said that she would be absolutely happy to make it, adding the emotion of Star Wars and what it stands for is something so beautiful in this world. If I can do something beautiful and do something that serves that audience, I would love to do it. So a couple things in here. Yeah, Wonder Woman's definitely not happening, which we kind of already knew about. She released a whole statement very early on when James Safran first took over DC Studios. She did talk about how Rogue Squadron was supposed to come after this movie, and now that this movie's not happening, she's working with Star Wars again. The fact that it happened before the strike, that kind of explains why it kind of went dormant for quite some time. But she does bring up a good point that they still don't know what movie's first. They don't know what they're doing with Star Wars at the moment. They have a bunch of directors. We've been hearing about a Taika Waititi Star Wars. We were hearing about Ryan Johnson is insistent that his trilogy is still happening. I don't believe that whatsoever. There's a lot in the pipeline theoretically for Star Wars, but we still have yet to see anything come into reality. So this, as it says in the article, is not confirmed. It's not like Rogue Squadron has a set scheduled date. But what are you guys thinking about this? Were you excited to see Rogue Squadron? Because that was actually one Star Wars project that I actually thought sounded pretty cool. Sounded like Top Gun in space. Sounded awesome. And I was pretty disappointed when Patty Jenkins was taken off and it was kind of going away. So the fact that there's still possibly some life to it does get me pretty excited. So I'll throw it to you first, Frank. What do you think of Rogue Squadron? Do you think it's going to happen? And are you excited to see it?
We have been deprived of another Star Wars film, really, and I think it's already time. I've at one point I thought to myself, like, man, I hope we don't have to live like we lived before, where after the original trilogy ended in the 80s, we ended in 1998 with Phantom Menace, and then a couple years later it was Attack of the Clones, and then a couple years later after that, Revenge of the Sith. I mean, the sequel trilogy was in kind of the same way, where they had like these gaps between each. But yeah, we are pretty overdue for another Star Wars film for sure. And I think it was this past fall where Twitter was going on about like Rogue Squadron was supposed to release, and that around
last year.
That year. Yeah, just several months ago, and and obviously it didn't happen. There was no word about Rogue Squadron at all throughout 2023 or late 2022. So yeah, it's about time. I think as we talk about Star Wars, I just remembered that Star Wars Acolyte, it's supposed to hit the Disney Plus platform, I think, later this year. And I would say, and I would say, like, it's great that we have these, but we need a movie. We really need a movie. We have to get back to the theaters and watch and experience a new Star Wars taste, like just anything as far as like what they've announced in last Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, absolutely. Rogue Squadron was announced back in 2020. We're 4 years removed from that. It looked like it was dead, and now it looks like it lives. Is this the right project for Star Wars? Are you excited to see this? What are your thoughts on Rogue Squadron's revival?
So you mentioned it earlier, Top Gun in space, and that's what the first thing I thought of. Top Gun Maverick was so well done. And I'm one of the probably 5 people on the planet who enjoyed Solo. I think that the
awesome
Rogue One is my absolute favorite Star Wars movie. I will die on this hill.
Oh wow, okay.
I enjoyed Rogue One, partly because there weren't that many Jedi in it. It did tie in. It did have one of the coolest Darth Vader scenes ever on the planet.
Yes.
Yes. So this movie won't have the luxury of having that, but man, you throw Glenn Powell in a starfighter or in a TIE fighter, whatever those things are called.
Great casting choice.
Like, man, you throw just a good old fashioned hero in there with kind of that edge, kind of, I think Alden, I can't remember the guy's name who played. Yeah, the guy who played Solo, and he was in an unwinnable situation, but I thought he did a really great job.
Yeah,
I thought him in any other project, he's worked in everything else that he's done, but he just was put in an unwinnable situation. You put a hero. that's not named Skywalker in this film, it works. Patty Jenkins will do a great job, barring Wonder Woman 84. Like, let's forget that movie ever was made. But I'm excited. Like, I would be excited for a Rogue Squadron. They're on a mission to go destroy something, and there's just a lot of TIE fighters fighting against I don't even know what those things are called, but I played the video game before. I love the video game. But I just think you get the right director, you get the right script, you get the right cast, and use the cast wisely. Like, don't neglect the cast. Don't do the stunt casting just for the sake of stunt casting. Put together a good cast of young pilots who are going on an unwinnable mission, and they win the unwinnable mission. Like, it writes itself. Like, it's a hero story, and just make sure nobody's name is Skywalker in this film. Like, because and don't make it an episode title. Like, it is its own thing, it's its own entity. And I think it works. I think it will work like gangbusters. And then out of nowhere, just like at the end, the Millennium Falcon, whoever's piloting, just shows up and just like blast some things. And there's your nostalgia. And I just think the movie works, man. I think I don't see a world where this movie would fail. Because it has a Star Wars name tied to it, has a great director tied to it, and you just have to nail the casting and in the script. Just don't write yourself into a hole like Rian Johnson did. And it might not make $1 billion, but it'll make a lot of money.
And give it that scope and scale to it too.
Yes,
like make it cinematic. It'll be awesome.
And all I'm thinking of seeing them in IMAX, like just a bunch of fighters going against each other's interstellar dogfight. Man, that'll be just amazing. It'll be amazing.
The recent live action Star Wars there were moments where I said to myself, this would just have been a perfect episode to just view it on the big screen, because the visual, the cinematography that these folks have put into this, it's worth watching it on the big screen and just take that in. Like,
I felt that you're in Andor.
Yeah. And in Ahsoka also.
Sometimes I was like, put it on the big screen, but also fix some of the effects and
that's for sure.
And get off that what's that soundstage called that they use? I can't remember what it was called, but like they have all the screens that surround them and they just project the environment on them. They use it all the time. Sometimes it's very noticeable. I can't remember what it's called, but anyways, it's gonna bother me, and I'll probably shout it out in the middle of one of the topics. I'll be like, it was that, but yeah, I don't really remember at the moment. But yeah, anyways, do we buy or sell that Rogue Squadron? It's back on the table, but do we buy or sell that Rogue Squadron's actually going to happen? And I personally, the fact that they've gotten Jenkins back, and I feel like now that she isn't focused on two projects, Wonder Woman 3 and then Rogue Squadron, I feel like this is just going to make the project even better. And personally, I was more excited for this than a Wonder Woman 3. So I'm going to buy that they're going to move forward with this.
Same here.
I hope. And hopefully optimistic. Why does it keep doing that? That's funny.
This one is, once again, another rumor, but it's kind of a fun rumor, I think, because we know that Deadpool and Wolverine's coming out. And we know that they've said there's going to be a lot of cameos. And we've been guessing what cameos are going to be. And it sounds like one of the cameos may have slipped out. This comes to us from Dark Horizons. It says that James Marsden, who played Cyclops in the X-Men films, has let it slip something that maybe shouldn't have. While promoting Michael Keaton's Knox Goes Away, the pair talked with The Playlist, the Discourse podcast, about their comic book movie adventures, and Marsden at one point discussed the upcoming third Sonic the Hedgehog film when he said, "We just wrapped Sonic 3. Actually, we were near the Deadpool production stages up there in Pinewood. Yeah, this is a little bit of a Pandora's box." According to the outlet, Marsden was seemingly regretting what he has said in real time, with the answer before trying to pivot back to Sonic 3, saying, "Look, franchises, I even hate that word, franchises, so I feel very proud of what we've created and the response from the fans and everything." He adds that he keeps getting accosted on the street about whether he'll appear in the film, to which he said, "Yeah, I keep hearing about it. I can't walk down the street without someone asking me, so evidently there's a lot of chatter about that." And that comes to us from Dark Horizons. So Sonic 3 just happened to shoot by the Deadpool 3 stage. He let that slip. He tried to backtrack a little bit. Seemed like he got a little bit worried there. Look, I personally believe that we're going to see all of the OG X-Men show up in this movie. I don't think it's going to be like a huge, necessarily like big action sequence, or like they're not going to be like co-stars of the movie, but I feel like Wolverine is either going to come with some of them or reunite with some of them by the end. I think we'll see Patrick Stewart. I think we'll see the original actress for Jean Grey. I think we'll see Storm, and I do think we're gonna see Cyclops. I do think that there's something to what James Marsden is saying here, and I don't think that it was just a slip of the mind that, oh yeah, I'm in Sonic 3 and I'm also in Dead. I think he kind of put those together and kind of was gonna let something out that he stopped himself from doing more so than he did just there. But what do you think, T? What do you think about these comments? What do you think that there's any chance that Cyclops shows up in Deadpool and Wolverine?
Being that it's a multiversal, it's kind of bringing the X-Men into the MCU. It would be a huge missed opportunity if Wolverine didn't throw a zinger at him in this film. Like that would just be a huge, like that was part of the X-Men original trilogy where he's just like every chance he got, he threw he threw it at Cyclops because of his love for Jean Grey. Yeah, I 100% think he'll show up. And yeah, I don't think this will be like a No Way Home thing where he kind of redeems the character because he was unceremoniously evaporated
Mhm.
in the X-Men
Oh
3.
my
Off
goodness, yeah.
off screen too.
Yeah,
That's
like
so
yeah,
true.
like so definitely justice for Cyclops, and it'll be great to see him in the film. I'm a big James Marsden fan. Can't wait for Sonic 3. But yeah, I definitely 100% think he'll definitely show up in some capacity. Like you said, I don't think he's going to have a huge role. I don't think there's going to be like this big X-Men X-Men assemble moment at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine. But at some point, like all of them are just gonna pop in randomly as some like fourth one, and Deadpool's gonna, make some joke about it. Like, oh, I know you, you look familiar, or
Mhm.
something silly, like because of the nature of those films or the nature of Deadpool, the character itself. I definitely for sure see everybody showing up, even Halle Berry as Storm. And I think they'll throw the X-Men First Class characters in it too. Like we might see a Havoc and Cyclops
Mhm.
moment in this. That would be dope. Like I think that would be great if we got a chance to see those two characters finally interact with each other on the big screen. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this. And James Marsden, um, I don't think that was an accident. I think that like I know that wasn't an accident. Like that's one putting his name out there a little bit more. And two, it's gonna create more buzz and interest for the Deadpool and Wolverine film because
Mhm.
here we are talking about it.
Good point. By the way, that soundstage is called The Volume. That's what it's called. The Volume. Um,
Got
but Frank, what do you think, man? Do you think that this is James Marsden trying to backtrack a secret he wasn't supposed to let out, or do you think that he was realizing, oh crap, I'm creating rumors. I should probably try to squash this, and while doing so, he created a rumor. What do you think about this? Do you
Oh
think we're gonna see him
man.
in that?
Listen, James would have to be quite a jerk to even like confuse the readers and confuse the interviewer also, because yeah, that was quite a move. And you would love it or you would hate it. But I just love how he just danced around the question and his answer. It goes back to the actor who's going to be playing Dopinder again. when he was interviewed, and he said
Mm.
that while filming Deadpool, like a lot of folks, a lot of actors have flew to London during production. So, you know, James could very well be one of them. Obviously, I mean, he was filming Sonic 3 while he was there. So, is it coincidence? Probably not. You know, and it's possible with him like working on both productions on Sonic 3 and Deadpool, because if it's just for a cameo, then I would imagine then he may have spent like a couple days in the week to just do this one thing, and that's it. So anything really is possible for Deadpool and Wolverine for when it comes out this year. So this just keeps me up there in the hype train all the way still. So let's go.
Yeah, it just adds coals to that fire, man. I cannot wait for Deadpool and Wolverine. But I don't know. Let's go to buy or sell, I guess, because I'm really not on the fence about it. I do think he's gonna be in it. I buy that.
I do too.
Totally gonna be in Wolverine.
That'd be a huge missed opportunity if he doesn't.
Yeah. And like you were saying, like it is kind of redemption, because he did kind of get a poor send off, especially in the X-Men films. They kind of brought him back for a cameo at the end of Days of Future Past, but other than that, he definitely, James Marsden is one of those stars too, where he just like kind of feels like he gets the short staff of everything he's in. Like he should be a bigger name than he is, because he's so good, and he has so he's been given so many amazing opportunities, but those opportunities just haven't worked out in the best way. So I liked him as Cyclops. I'm hoping we'll see him again, and I believe we will.
Same. Yeah. And speaking of X-Men, I know this is like out there for promoting, but yeah, X-Men 97 is going to be coming up, just FYI, this week. So yeah, I can wait for that.
With that, guys, that is it. That is the show. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you so much for talking about all these fun. We had some great topics to talk about today. This was a blast. Tell people where they can find you. We'll start with you, T.
You can find me at Have You Seen That with T, the YouTube channel. Today I'll be dropping my Loves, Lies, and Bleeding review. I wouldn't check that out yesterday, and I'm probably going to go check out Author the King today, so that review might be out tomorrow. But yeah, you can find me there, and on Letterboxd at Have You Seen That.
Yeah, you guys can find me as Optimistic Forever on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. I've also started going back up on Letterboxd myself, so find me as at Optimistic Forever there as well. I'm going to be reviewing Beau is Afraid, which I saw last night for the first time, so check out that review.
Ooh, curious to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah, no, Love Lies Bleeding and Arthur the King are not played in my theater, so no reviews from me this weekend, but we're back with Zach Mel Talks Live on Wednesday. So that's going to be fun. Thank you guys again for joining me today. This is always a blast. Always honored to have you here, and so thankful to you guys for being members and supporting the channel. And yeah, they're all linked down in the description below, so definitely go click on their names, check them out. Check out Ryan or movie reviews with Ryan Lane as well. He's down there as well. Give all these guys love and support, and we'll see you guys again next week. Take care.